Hey, BassGeek here, and for those of you that don't have a live scope, for those of you that don't like to fish super deep in the wintertime, for those of you that like to power fish, baby, I got something for you today. That's right, geeks, power fishing. I'm a power fishing sort of guy. I like to crank, I like to throw the A-rig, I like to throw big glide baits, I like to throw jerk baits, I like to do a lot of moving and fishing and cranking and chunking and winding. Just who I am. I don't like to slow down, not even during the winter. And do I have something fun for you today? So during the winter time, bass love to get on areas that are steep and adjacent to deep water. Steep and deep. You've heard it your entire life. One of the things that I love to do and I love to target this time of year are bluffs. Now, you may not have the style of bluffs that you see here behind me that are crazy vertical and hugely tall, but steep, deep channel swings, it's as good as a bluff. But there's certain things that make some bluffs better than others. Let me show you that. So now, depending on how much light level I'm going to have, this morning it was pretty low and we had some pretty good wind. So we had, some heavy cloud cover, some pretty good fog, and some decent chop on the water blowing in on the bluffs that we were fishing. So that really caused me to pull out like the Spro 55. Now we went with a little brighter belly this morning. Fortunately, I lost it. I gotta go get some more. And had a little bit of chartreuse on it. We caught a couple of good smallmouth off of it. But this is the same body style. And again, this is actually one of my favorite colors. And we were just grinding it down, getting it on the rocks, and then creeping it across. Stop and go retrieve. Another one we could have thrown this morning pretty easily is the good old wiggle wart. This would have been a great color to throw to really call those smallmouth up in those light conditions. The one we were throwing, you'll see it in the video, it had a little bit of chartreuse on the bottom. But the wiggle wart, when you've got some dirtier water or super low light conditions like we had this morning, another good selection. So let's say one of those factors were gone. We didn't have chop. That'd be the one when I would pull out these. These are my Bandit 300s. And one thing you're going to kind of notice is I'm going to stick to two things this type of year: shad and crawl patterns. Now I know you might be thinking, well, that don't look like shad or a crawl, but we got green, chartreuse, orange, and we got white, maybe a little more of a crappy pattern there. It's got a little bit of white, a little bit of red in it. They're gonna think about these two. This got a little less wobble than a rock crawler and a wiggle wart, so it's just a touch more subtle. One of the reasons why I like the medium divers so much is because I'm gonna get in tight to that bank and I'm gonna stay just a few feet deeper than what the bait I'm throwing runs. For example, I believe both of these are DT10s. I'm going to get out there and I'm going to keep that boat in, say, 12 to 14 feet, and I'm going to throw right up to the bank and I'm going to work this down those ledges, because a lot of times what will happen is those bass will hug up real tight to the overhangs or underhangs. And as this bait starts to click and dive down, that's when they'll come out and chew on it. Again, these are the DT10s. As you see, again, a crawl pattern and a shad pattern. Now we're going to get into the super subtle flat side baits. And that's going to be things like the Little John. This is a great spring bait, but it's great right now too. And by the way, links will be in the description for all this. And this is the Fritz side, one of my favorites to throw this time of year. These flatter sides have some real tight wiggle. Once it really slicks off and the sun starts to peak up, this is what I'm going to be throwing. Now, let's talk about ultra finesse crankbaits. This is what I'm going to. This is a Black Label Balsa. Both of these are crawdad patterns, and this is a good old number 7 Shad Wrap from Rapala. These are very thin and they're very subtle. So you can fish these when, I wouldn't say dead slick calm, bluebird sky in clear water like we have here, you want, 2-foot visibility or 3 foot and above, but you want a little bit of wind blowing in. You want a little bit of cloud cover maybe. But these are the ultra subtle baits, and they'll really get you bites almost in the worst conditions. So when we're talking about setup for cranking these medium divers, this is probably one of my favorites right here. This is the Tactical Elite series. Now this is our 710 cranking. It is a medium moderate, so I can cast these a long way. And this is one of the older BB1, not pros, the original BB1s. Love this for cranking. I'd cast these out a mile. They work well. Now they don't have the Tactical Elites anymore, so I will put, I believe it's the new Taction series, down in the description below. But this is what we're throwing them on all day. Make sure you check out these bait covers. Not sponsored by them, don't have anything to do with them, but there is a link down there. You can get them off Amazon, super cheap, and way cheaper than all the branded ones, if you know what I mean. As far as line goes, now geeks, I fish clear water, I fish deep lakes. I would recommend going 10 to 12. I've got 10-pound test, Pro 100, 100% fluorocarbon from K9 line. 10% discount code right there. Make sure you check them out. It's my favorite line. But sometimes to get it down just a little bit deeper, I'll move down to 8-pound test. So when you're cranking bluff walls, you're going to want to make sure that you're getting in tight to that bluff wall. Like I said before, you're going to want to make sure that you're keeping that boat in about 1 foot or 2 feet more than that crankbait will dive. I don't like to get right up against them until I know kind of what depth the bass are chewing at. So I still I wouldn't call it a 45 for sure, but I still want to make sure that crankbait is coming down that ledge and hitting those rocks as it goes deeper and deeper and deeper, bouncing off the side. Now you're going to want to crank. Once you hit bottom, slow down a little bit. It is wintertime. We're talking about wintertime cranking. Kind of crawl that thing down through there. If you hit something erratically, let it be erratic, give it a crank or two, and then stop. After that, it's a stop and go retrieve. So make sure if you're just running on smooth rock, hit stop and go. A lot of times that float up and that sudden crank back down will be what gets them to bite, one or the other. So like I said, when you make your cast, you want to make your cast right up against the bank. What I like to do is make the cast off the wide side, the open water side, and then bring my rod across so that I make sure that I've just got a good angle at it. And then I make sure I get my rod there and I drop my rod tip so that the rod tip's down. When you get a bite, you're just going to swing into them, set the hook, play the fish, get them to the boat. Watch those trebles. Try not to get your hands wet because it can make for a miserable day if your hands are wet. But if you're catching fish, most of the time, you're not feeling the cold. And it really is that simple, geeks. I mean, that's how we were catching them this morning. And, it was pretty fun. All right, if you want to know a lot more about choosing the right crankbait for winter time, make sure you check out this video right here. Otherwise, questions and comments in the comments section below. You geeks know I love to talk about fishing with you. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe and make sure you ring that bell so you get the notifications, be part of the 100% Watch Squad, help the channel grow. You geeks rock.